everyone, welcome along. I'm Jessica. Today I'm talking about processing emotion. So this is really for those of us who are wanting to engage consciously in moving our emotions through in a healthy way and in a way that moves us forward into greater awareness and greater freedom and more creative power in our lives. So before we can really consciously go into a process, we have to have the awareness that there is something there that needs to be processed. There's some kind of energy that is lingering or hovering under the surface or just near the surface. And if we have developed a lot of really great coping mechanisms around keeping our emotions at bay, this can sometimes be a little bit difficult to identify. Sometimes it's really obvious. Sometimes, we feel like we want to cry, we feel a lump in our throat, or we're feeling really angry. But other times it shows up a little more subtly. So it might show up as distraction, right? When we're keeping ourselves really busy, when we are over planning things. Maybe we're endlessly scrolling through social media, or we're eating when we're not really hungry. These things that are taking our attention elsewhere so that we don't have to be here with the emotional reality that's playing out within us. Other times it's like a sense of discomfort when we can't really settle or focus. It might be when we have aches and pains in our body, or we're feeling like we're really tense, the muscles are holding tight. These can all be signs that we're holding on to something that we're not really ready to look at or sit with. So as we have this awareness, we have the opportunity to move into a conscious process with it. So the awareness is something to be celebrated rather than condemning ourselves in any way for noticing what we're doing or noticing what's playing out with us. This is a moment to be celebrated. It's something that has brought to our attention what has previously been unconscious to us, that we previously haven't even known has been happening, and we now have the opportunity to work with in an engaged, conscious way. So what I want to offer for you now is a 3-step process that you can work with if you decide that that's what you want to do, if you want to start working with this emotion. And the first phase in that process is to connect. We need to connect with the feeling. We need to connect with our present reality. So it's about becoming present, and it's about really anchoring into the physicality of what's going on for us. It means disconnecting then from anything that's taking us away from that reality. So putting down the phone and just coming into ourselves. It also is really about taking responsibility. So if we're blaming others for how we're feeling or how things in our life are making us feel, then we're pushing the feeling back out there. But as we take responsibility, we bring it in and we own it, and we start to create relationship with it. And one of my favorite ways for doing this is just to really neutrally state and acknowledge what it is that's going on for me. So if I'm going about my day, it's really easy to just say in my head, wow, I feel something, when I notice that there's something going on for me. If we don't know what we feel, then we can just say we feel something. If we do know what we feel, then it's about naming that if possible, because it can make it okay. If we say in a really neutral and accepting tone what it is that's happening, we give ourselves permission to feel that, and we take ownership of that feeling. One of my favorite ways to do that is when I'm having a conversation with my husband, and if he's tending to irritate me, I might feel like I want to lash out at him, or I might feel like I just want to run away into the other room. But when I have the awareness that there is a feeling going on inside of me, and I say to myself, wow, I feel really annoyed at him right now, it opens up a lot of space, right? I own the feeling, I give myself permission, and it diffuses it. So often with a low-level emotion, all we really need to do is to state what it is that's happening, and that takes us already through the entire process. the next stage in the process, if we need to really consciously start moving into that, if the emotion is not just shifting through simple acknowledgement, is to open space. So we suppress our emotions when we clamp down around them, when we close them in and tighten in so that they can't move and flow. So in order to actually allow them to process, we have to instead open our energy. We need to open space for them to move through in a really free and uninhibited way. So the first thing to do is to open space mentally, which is to drop the thinking, drop the judgment, drop the story, and just have that spaciousness of the mind available to us. And we also need to open space energetically and physically. So to open space energetically is really about connecting with that bigger part of us that is beyond the experience of the emotion. It's the part of us that is the space within which the experience and the emotional energy is playing out. It's bigger than it, and it can contain it. And it's a neutral, witnessing sort of viewpoint that we want to take, where we just step back and, oh yeah, like this is happening. I can watch it, but I know that it's not me. It's just something that is occurring and passing through. An analogy that I like to use for this sort of energy that this space is the idea of a glass that you might put water in. That glass doesn't discriminate whether we fill it with water, whether we fill it with juice, or we pile it full of mud. The glass just remains the same, neutral. Okay, I'm holding this experience and it is what it is. So that's the part of us we want to connect to. And one of the ways that you can do this is by taking out a broad, zoomed out view of what it is that's happening. So feeling the sense of the skin against the ear, or body part touching body part, taking in 3 or 4 or 5 sensations all at once, so that we move our awareness out and we know that we're not then clamping down on one aspect of the experience, but we can take it all in at once. Then we need to maybe soften our skin, soften our muscular tension, because these things also are containing our energy. But in order to do that, in order to relax the nervous system so that things can flow, we need to feel physically safe in our environment. So this is the physical space that we may need to create. If we don't feel safe to just open as we go about our daily life, we may need to take ourselves off to the side to deal with some of the bigger, stronger emotions that come up. And this would maybe involve taking ourselves into the bathroom if we're at work. It might involve taking ourselves into another room if we're in a scenario where other people are and maybe we feel like we might be judged, or we feel like we might lash out at them. Then we need to remove ourselves so that the body can relax, the nervous system can release, and we don't have that instinctive, protective kind of covering over that locks everything down. And as we open that energetic space, then we're automatically starting to move into the third phase of the process, which is the allowing of the emotion. Now, we know from previous sessions that emotional energy is often discomfort, or rather uncomfortable. So we have to be prepared that we might feel a little bit of discomfort. It's designed like that so it can get our attention and it can teach us, show us what it is that we need to know. So as we open space, there will be a period, almost always, of a little bit of discomfort before we find our way out the other side of the emotion into the bliss, the space, the peace, the clarity, and all of those wonderful, beautiful things. And the discomfort can be at various levels. So if we maybe, it's just a low level sort of emotion and it's just washing through, it might be a moment that the cells are kind of a little bit shaky and feeling a little uncomfortable very briefly. But other times it might manifest as stronger, more visible things like tears. It might feel like waves of heat, fire coming through the body. It might be trembling of the muscles. Sometimes it could be sound, groaning or shouting. It might be spontaneous movement of the body as the energy comes up and releases through the surface. So we may find that we're come into a little bit of a dance between opening space, feeling something come, and then habitually closing, realizing that we're closing, and opening. So we can sort of gradually build our capacity to hold whatever it is that's coming through without that judgment, and just letting the experience be as it is without placing shoulds on top of it or should nots on top of it. Sometimes if the emotional energy is not coming up easily, if we're opening space but we're sort of feeling a little bit stuck, then it can be helpful to actively heighten the emotion. So purposely bring tears to the surface, maybe to try and express the feeling as a sound, like if this was a sound, how would it translate? Or maybe move the body so that things don't get stagnant and stuck. They actually start to flow. And as we are able to connect with the feeling, as we are able to open space for that feeling and let it flow, we are creating spiritual and emotional alchemy. That neutral space for the energy to flow through is transmuting lower density vibrations into higher density vibrations that gives us more energy, more vitality, greater perspective on life, a lot more clarity and ease. That is spiritual alchemy, that ability to translate and transmute what's going on into something that is really potent and powerful for us to use. So with those three phases, I just want to go through it. It's connecting first of all and letting go of thought. It is opening space. Again, at that time we let go of thought. And it is then allowing whatever to come through that space. At that time we also let go of thought. So that thread that I've just pulled up that comes through all three of them is really important. Letting go of the thinking mind. We do not need to rationalize what it is that we're experiencing. We do not need to understand it, analyze it, any of that stuff. All we need to do is to feel it in a neutral framework, and it's done. It moves through. The process has occurred. And that knowing that we can feel is key. Enabling ourselves to feel is necessary to healing. We need to feel in order to heal. Beautiful mantra to hold on to. Let go of the mind, come into the feeling body, and there it all is. So just remember that this is a process. So meet yourself wherever you are on that process. It may be that you're just near the beginning. You're only able to have an awareness of your emotion and not quite capable of connecting with it at this time. But you're playing with moving in that direction. Or maybe you're opening space, but not quite able to allow the energy to flow fully and freely. It's a dance, and it's a process where we move and build our capacity to have that happening. And when it's all three aspects are happening at once, that's when our energy is flowing and we're really alive and vital and energized and able to just process through the experiences of life with ease and grace. And it's a really beautiful, juicy, wonderful, blissful experience to be in. So slowly building our capacity toward that mastery. So I hope that this video did give you some insight and some helpful tips. If you found it helpful, please like and share with your friends and family. If you have any comments that you want to leave below around your own emotional processes, things and insights that you might want to share with others as they go on their journey, please do leave them below. If you want to check out my website, you can do so at www.jessicadawson.net. Over there is a little bit more information about some of the work and offerings that I have available. I'll be back again soon with another video. Until then, take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.